Hi students, I'm Abhishek from Vidyaguru, and in today's session we are going to discuss child development. So the CTET examination is approaching, be it CTET or any other TET examination or any teaching examination. Child development is an important aspect, and within child development our focus is going to be on Vygotsky's theory today. So what we are going to discuss today is social development by Vygotsky. So Vygotsky's theory, as we commonly call it, is a socio-cultural theory. That means he has talked about the socio-cultural development of a child. So all of you know that man is a social animal. So how does man become a social animal? How do we learn the social customs? How do we learn the social processes? All this has been discussed by Vygotsky. So understand one thing, that in Vygotsky's theory, please note down, that's an important point, that in Vygotsky's theory you will not find any stages, because Vygotsky has not divided the development of a child in any stages. Whenever you refer to, let's say, Piaget, so in Piaget's theory you find 4 stages are there, but in Vygotsky's theory you will not find any stage, and that is an important question which has been asked once, that in which of the following theories you will not be finding any stages. So you will not be finding any stages in Vygotsky's theory of social development. So let's see what are the key points of this theory. So first and foremost, Vygotsky says that learning is a social process. Learning is a social process. What does that mean? Vygotsky is of the view that we learn everything in a social format. It's a social process. Our learning is a social process. That means through social interaction. It means through social interaction we learn a whole lot of things. So ask yourself, why is a child sent to school? The child is sent to school so that he can interact with certain individuals, so that there can be social interaction. He will meet friends, he will meet teachers, he will meet a whole lot of people, and from them he will be learning a lot of new things. So Vygotsky believes that learning is a social process. So he gives importance to the social factors. He emphasizes, he gives importance to the social factors and their role in learning. Sure. Vygotsky further says that social interaction plays an important role in the cognitive development of a child. So what is cognitive development? Students, cognitive development is intellectual development. Basically, intelligence is developing. What do we mean by cognitive development? Please understand, cognitive development and intellectual development, they are the same thing. They are similar words. So ultimately, cognitive development is nothing but the development of intelligence of an individual. So Vygotsky says it is through social interaction. While interacting with people from the society, we acquire intelligence, we gain intelligence. So he stresses the importance of social factors. He says social interaction is going to play a vital role, is going to play an important role in the cognitive development, in the intellectual development of a child. So now we are going to understand 3 key concepts which Vygotsky has talked about. And the first concept is now on your screen, and we call it scaffolding. Please understand, scaffolding is a concept which is there in Vygotsky's theory. So Vygotsky's theory of social development talks about scaffolding. So what do we mean by scaffolding? Look at the important words. Scaffolding is a form of temporary support. Students, scaffolding is a form of temporary support that adults provide to children to promote their learning. Adults provide this temporary support so that children can learn. So when you go to school, it is your teachers who provide you some support while learning. They give your thinking the right direction. They channelize your thinking in the right direction by giving you certain clues, by giving you certain cues. They help you understand some new principles. They help you discover new principles. Let's make it simple. All of us have in fact learnt how to write. And how did we learn writing? It was only through the effort of our adults. More often than not, it was the effort of our mother, who used to hold our hand in her hand, and that's how we learned to write. She ensured that she gave us some temporary support at the start of learning. She showed us how to form the alphabet. She showed us how to write various letters. she showed us the construction of let's say A, that you have to join the lines and then you have to place a line in between. That's what we call A. So we were given this temporary support, that was scaffolding, that we got from our adults, that we got from our mother. She held our hand, she held our hand in her hand, and that's how we learned to write. But ask yourself, was this support temporary or permanent? Of course, this support was only and only temporary. The moment we learnt how to hold the pen correctly, she made us become independent. She gave us a lot of writing tasks after that. The moment we could use the pen ourselves, she gave us some writing tasks, and that's how we became independent. So what is scaffolding? Please understand, scaffolding is the temporary support that an adult, that a teacher will provide so that children can learn. And through scaffolding, what will happen? Through this support, children will be able to learn new principles. That's how, through the medium of scaffolding, the adults, the teachers will guide our thinking in the right direction. Let me give you an example. If I have to teach, let's say, gravitation to certain students, I will ask them a very simple question. I will try to give some direction to their thinking. I will ask them, what will happen if I drop this pen? What will happen if I drop this pen? I will ask them a very simple question. All of them will reply that this pen will move downward, this pen will fall. Then I'll ask them, okay, what do you think? What do you think is the reason of this pen falling downward? Then they would have to think, and perhaps they will give me an answer that something is pulling. It's like something is pulling the pen towards the earth. It's like something is pulling the pen towards the ground. And yes, that's how the students will be learning the principle of gravitation. That's how I will be teaching them what gravity is. That gravity is nothing but the force with which the earth pulls all the objects towards itself. So through my examples, through my questions, what did I try to do? I helped them discover the new principle, that was gravitation. I tried to give some direction to their thinking. So that's scaffolding, the temporary support that is provided to children. Now let's see what is the next concept. The next concept is a really important one, and that is ZPD. What is ZPD? ZPD is the zone of proximal development. So students, what do we mean by the word zone? Zone is nothing but area. Zone is nothing but area. And what sort of area this is? It is the area, students, please understand, it is the zone, it is the area in which learning takes place. That's a very common question. So Vygotsky believes that learning takes place. Vygotsky believes that learning takes place in this zone, in this area. Which area we call the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. Now let's understand what this area is and what has it got to do with learning. Let's see. So look at what is written. It refers to the gap between what children can do themselves and what they can do with adult guidance or peer support. Let's see what it means. See, we're trying to understand ZPD, and by ZPD I'm saying that there are certain things that the children can do on their own, that the children can do themselves. That means there are certain things that children can do independently. So let's consider this their level of independence, the independent level. The level of independence, that means the things that the children can do themselves, the things for which they do not need anybody's support. Let's take up an example. The students of class 1, the students who have studied, let's say, about 8 or 9 months in class 1, the students of class 1, they know how to perform single digit addition. They know how to perform single digit addition now. So that's their level of learning. They can solve single digit addition questions on their own. Listen to me very carefully. For performing single digit addition questions, they do not require the help of a teacher. They can solve what 3 plus 4 is. Single digit addition question, they can solve what 5 plus 4 is. Single digit addition questions they can do on their own. Now you want to take them to a higher level. So from their level of self-dependence, you want to take them to a higher level That means you want to take them to the next level. Obviously, you want to take them to the next level. But can they move? Can they move to the next level on their own? No, of course not. To reach this next level, they require your support. They require the guidance of a teacher. Or perhaps they require group support. That means to reach the next level, they require some support. That support could be the guidance of the teacher. That support could be the support of the group as well. And ask yourself, from single digit addition, students, from single digit addition, what will be the next higher level? The next higher level will be double digit addition. It will be double digit addition. In our example, from single digit addition, students will move to the next level, and the next level is double digit addition. That means now you want to teach them how to calculate, let's say 15 plus 17. And the moment a double digit addition comes into picture, now listen to me very carefully. Students, the moment a double digit addition comes into picture, the students will have to be taught the concept of carry on or carry over. Because the moment a student has to calculate 15 plus 17, he has to be knowledgeable of, he has to know the concept of carry on or carry over. So without understanding the concept of carry on or carry over, the student will not be able to perform double digit addition. And how will that concept reach him? How will the concept of carry on be taught to him? Of course, through the guidance of a faculty member, through the guidance of a teacher, somebody senior to him, or perhaps it could be group support as well. So my point is, he will move to the next level, and try to understand what is this next level. The next level is the level that the child can acquire with adult guidance or group support. Peer support is nothing but group support. And now you can see, students, there is a gap. Please understand, there is a gap between these two levels. The level at which the learner is independent, his current level, the level at which he is independent, and the level which he can attain, if you provide him with some guidance, if you provide him with some support. So between these two levels, students, there is a zone, there is a gap. And you call this zone the ZPD, zone of proximal development. That means, think of a class 1 student. He can perform single digit addition himself. Certain things that the learner can do without any aid, without any support, single digit addition. But there are certain things which he just cannot do. He cannot perform division. He cannot perform multiplication right now. It is beyond his scope of understanding. It is beyond his level of intelligence. So, what is it that he can do? He can perform single digit addition independently, but you want to take him to the next level. So you have to provide him with some guidance. Through guidance, he will be able to move from single digit addition to double digit addition. That means he will be able to move to the next level. And this zone, this area, that's the area we call the ZPD, where the learner can learn something new. He can move to the next level if you provide him with some support, if you provide him with some guidance. So, as I told you, it's this zone that Vygotsky believes is where the learning takes place. So now, let's understand it a bit more in detail. As we have discussed it, it is the distance. Sometimes in the definition, instead of the word gap, they use the word distance. So it is the distance between the child's level of self-dependence. What we looked at, the first level, his level of independence, and the level, now read carefully, and the level that he or she can acquire, the level which he or she can acquire through guidance and support. So there is a gap between these two levels. There is an area between these two levels. Certain things the learner can do independently. Okay. Certain things that the learner cannot do even if guided. So even if you guide class 1 students to perform division, right now they will not be able to do it. But If you guide them how to perform, if you guide them how to perform double digit addition, they will be able to do it. The things that the learner can do if you guide him well, if you provide him with some support. So in our example, it was the double digit addition which the students could pick up if we provided them some support. And this area exactly is what I call the ZPD, the second circle. The second circle, this particular area is the zone of proximal development. Sure? And now students, after scaffolding and zone of proximal development, we are going to learn what is MKO. Let's see what is an MKO. Let's understand the full form first. M stands for more, K stands for knowledge, and O stands for other. More knowledgeable, other. So who is an MKO? Ask yourself. Why do we go to school? We go to school so that we can learn from our teachers. And who are these teachers? These teachers are more skilled and capable than us, the learners. So MKO is somebody who is more skillful, who is more intelligent and more learned as compared to the student, as compared to the learner. More often than not, it is the parent of a child or the teacher of a child or somebody elder to him. Quite often, it is the teachers, the elders, the parents who are the MKOs, who act as the MKOs. So what is the role of these MKOs? In fact, these MKOs, these elders, they provide scaffolding. Just now we looked at the word scaffolding. So they provide scaffolding to the learners, they provide scaffolding to the students so that the students can learn something. Look at this picture. This father, perhaps it is the father of the kid. So the father is the MKO. The father is the MKO and the kid is trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. So the kid is of course the learner, and the learner is being provided some support. Can the learner ride the bike himself? No, the learner cannot ride the bike himself. It is the MKO. It is the MKO who is providing the scaffolding. And look at the scaffolding. The elder is holding the bike. The elder is holding the bicycle. The elder is providing the support. So this temporary support is known as the scaffolding. And who's going to provide that? MKO is going to provide that. And what is the basic feature? What is the primary feature of an MKO? That he has greater level of understanding. The MKO possesses a greater level of understanding than the learner. An MKO is more learned as compared to the learner. And that is why an MKO helps us, guides us in to help our learning, to aid our learning. But please remember that an MKO will not always be a human being. Even a computer system, even a software, even a learning software can act as an MKO. Simple. Who is an MKO? Somebody who is going to assist, somebody who is going to guide, somebody who is going to help the learner. So even a computer software can do that. A lot of times we learn how to write, how to type. And how do we learn how to type? It is through the typing softwares. Many typing softwares are available, and it is these typing softwares that help us learn typing. So even that typing software is nothing but an MKO. It need not always be a human being. It need not always be a person. Sure. In fact, intelligent machines can also act as MKOs. You have certain electronic dictionaries. I'm sure you have seen electronic dictionaries. Electronic dictionaries, they not only tell you the meaning of a word. These electronic dictionary can also tell you the pronunciation of a word. So just like an English language faculty, an electronic dictionary will tell you not only the meaning of the word, but it will also tell you the pronunciation of a word. It is playing the same role as an English language faculty who teaches you in school. Moreover, an MKO can also be a person younger than the learner. Please understand, it's not always that an MKO will be elder to the learner, will be elder to the student. No, that's not always the case. An MKO can also be an individual who is younger. Think of it like this. A lot of times the young kids who are very good at using WhatsApp, who are very good at using the mobile phones, the cell phones, it is these young kids, it is these very young children who teach their grandmas and grandpas, how to use the WhatsApp, how to use a cell phone. So in that case what happens? The child who is much younger as compared to the grandma, that child becomes the MKO, because the child is more learned in terms of using the WhatsApp, he is more learned in terms of using the cell phone. So now the child becomes the MKO, and the grandma becomes the learner, the granny becomes the learner. Sure? So MKO in this case is the child who is much younger than the learner, who is grandma. So please remember, it can be an MKO, can be an intelligent machine, it can be a software as well, and an MKO can also be a person younger than the learner. Sure? So students, that is about Vygotsky's theory for today. Of course, this theory has a lot many important aspects. For example, what is Vygotsky's view on language? We are going to understand all of that in great detail in our online classes. So our online classes are being held right now. So you can inquire about these online courses on the helpline numbers which are given on your screen. So please contact us, because the batches are going to start very soon. Thank you so much.